Good afternoon. Namaste to all of you, and we are back today with quite an interesting topic that's going to be today a lot of discussion and a lot of new knowing things, stirring up our knowledge in these hard times of this pandemic. Welcome you all. I take great privilege to welcome you all to the 12th episode of the season 2. The season 2 of Tell Me Appa, episode number 12, Remembering a Life of Natyam. So, just to give a brief introduction to all of you, Dr. Sir will discuss about his life in South Indian classical dance through this episode, number 12. Initially, Dr. Ananda Balayogi Bhavanani undertook his training in Bharatanatyam with Yogacharya Kalaimamani Puduvai Shakti Srimati Meenakshi Devi Bhavanani Ammaji. Later, he became the disciple of Padma Shri Adyar K. Lakshman Sir. So, we will learn more about Sir and about the whole journey of dance of Dr. Sir. So in our first question, I want to know that what did you feel when you met your guru for the first time? And also please give us an insight about your great guru and your fruitful journey in dance.
You see, actually, there wasn't just one day, there wasn't one moment where it happened. Because Ammaji started going to Adyar K. Lakshman Sir in the late 1970s. And what happened is that it was actually mid 1970s, I would say, after I was born. So she went and started learning the Bharatanatyam in the Kalakshetra tradition from Lakshman Sir, who had started his own school, Bharata Chudamani, in Adyar, in Chennai. And Ammaji at that time, Swamaji and Ammaji had also started the Sri Kamli Swami Youth Yoga and Fine Arts program at Kamli Swami Madam. So Ammaji, once she started learning the basic Adavu, she came back, and on Sundays, she started sharing, even as she was learning the Adavu and the other items, she started sharing with the local kids who used to come to learn yoga and Natyam. And this is how, right from my childhood, every Sunday there was a Natya class, a dance class going on in the Madam, and Ammaji was teaching. So it was natural to join in, and of course Swamaji and Ammaji felt I should try to be exposed to as many fine arts as possible. And hence, I was part of the yoga class, I was part of the music class, and so I was part of the dance class that Ammaji was teaching. So it was natural to be part of the class. So there wasn't really one moment where I started learning. This was the day I started learning. It was just a natural process. Similarly, Ammaji, when she used to go to Chennai, she would go to Chennai for a week, stay in Mylapore. And that is why the Mylapore, the Kapalishwar temple and the Karpagam hotel, which was next to the temple, and in front of the hotel there would be this huge tank, the temple tank filled with water in those days. So we would stay at Karpagam hotel, take a bus, and we would come to Adyar, which took about 40 minutes in those days from Mylapore to Adyar. Then get down at the bus stand, walk across the road and down a couple of crosses until we came to Sir's house. And so what happened was Ammaji would go up 1 week, so I would go with her. So every time she went for the class with Lakshman Sir, I was automatically there, though I was not in the class. So most probably what would happen is that I would be running around playing, and he had two sons, they were twins, Baba Prasad and Krishna Prasad. And so Baba, Krishna, they were similar age to me. So the three of us became the mischievous kids running around. Because Sir's house, it was an old house, it was a rented building, an old house, and in the backyard he had this huge thatch shed in which he used to teach the classes. So there were trees there, a lot of space to run around, so we used to run around and play and climb trees. Which is why when Adyar Lakshman Sir used to talk about me, he said, when Ananda was small, you couldn't find him on the ground, you had to look up in the trees to find him and call him down. And I don't know when it was really, but started also doing. He said, you are anyway here. Why don't you also start doing? So I started doing. And then came an occasion. I think the occasion where really I identified with him as a guru for Natyam was they were having the 10th anniversary of Bharata Chudana. And so he told Amma, he said, many of my students are going to be dancing for that event. So why don't you send Ananda? So I went up there. It must have been for at least 2 weeks, if not a month. And I stayed with Lakshman sir. So I stayed in his house, and the mommy used to feed us, and we had wonderful food with her, and playing with Baba and Krishna. And Indu, his daughter, was also part of it, but the boys sort of teamed up. So there was all that going on. And every day I used to practice. And I was to do the Vasanta Jadiswaram. So one of his senior students, Jayanti Akka, was there. And so Jayanti Akka, it was her job to drill me. So every day, this was the first poetry in the Jadiswaram. And Sagamadani and this Jadiswaram was there. And what happened was that after practicing for 2 or 3 weeks every day, when the program happened, the final program happened, I got on stage, I was dancing along the Jadiswaram, and I forgot how to start the Jati. And then Sir adjusted, he was doing the Natwam and singing, adjusted, and then we went on. And I think that time that I spent with him, staying with him, it was a Gurukula for me, a Gurukula experience and a Guru Shishya bonding. And then on many times we had occasions to then go on, and it became stronger and stronger. But with Lakshman sir, some of the very beautiful memories included his teaching me how to play the mridangam for the dance. And Baba and Krishna, who were also learning mridangam, because Lakshman sir's younger brother, Gopi Mama, he was an amazing mridangist. He is still playing the mridangam for dance. So they used to learn from him and other mridangists who is coming. So Lakshman sir one day said, hey Ananda, take the mridangam and this is how you should play. You show me. And so that experience, because he could play the mridangam, he could sing, he could do the natwangam, he could dance, which is why when I did my mridangam arangetam in 1987, he wrote me a letter saying, Ananda, you can really be my shishya because you have all the 3 aspects that are required that bring then the natwangam together. So I think that time that I stayed with him was the most important time. And I really identified as a shishya to my Natya Guru.
Any more specific events?
A lot. When I think of Lakshman sir, there were a lot of events. You see, he came down many times to conduct the recital, and Ammaji would dance in Kamliswami Madam and I.C. Vaya. And then I would dance, your mother Devasena would dance, Saraswati, Prabhavati, others would also dance, and so many performances sir used to do. I think the standout performances were, one of the performances was 1989, the first international yoga sport competition that Swamiji organized at Ananda Kalyana Mandapam. And it was the 3rd decennial convocation of Vishwa Yoga Samaj. And all the great yogis had come. And so in that, Lakshman sir conducted the recital. We danced, Ammaji also danced. Ammaji did the Ni and the Mayam, the famous Danyasi Varanam on Krishna, which was one of Sir's specialities. And so that was one event which really stood out. The other one was in 1993 for the first yoga festival government of Pondicherry conducted at Uppalam Stadium. Sir conducted the recital and all of us danced for that. And very iconic memories, these two, because one was the first time international event in yoga sport, and then the second was the first festival sponsored by the government of Puducherry. So very iconic. And then one of your Tata's last birthdays, which we had a function in the backstage at the ashram, and a very magnificent performance that Sir conducted. So these 3 were very noteworthy performances. And then again at Abai, the Association of Bharatanatyam Artists had a performance in Chennai at the Bharati Vidya Bhavan auditorium where we danced. Um, and along with Sir, there was a relationship with his elder brother, Ramu Sir, and his sister, Nagamani Akka, Mani Akka. All three of them, Lakshman Sir, Ramu Sir, and Mani Akka, are no longer with us in the physical body, but their teachings are there. And Ramu Sir came to ICYR and conducted a workshop for Yoganjali students also. We wanted Lakshman Sir to come, but he in those days was traveling a lot. Similarly, one time I remember Lakshman Sir had come to Pondicherry. This was towards the end, last few years of his life, and he was going to go to, I believe, France. So he and Baba had come here and they were applying for a visa at the French consulate. So then he spent the day here, and that time I sang for him. Those were the days I started choreographing my own music and dance. So the Gananada Kautam, Kukun, the Rita, Kukun, the Rita, Kukun, the Rikita, Taka, Jum, the Jum, Taka, Jum, Tum, the Rita Janata Kita, Tu Kiya, Tu Dikayal. And I had the pleasure to sing it to him. He really appreciated the intricacies and then suggested how some of the words could be fine tuned. And again, blessed me that the music, the Tamil lyrics, the music and the dance and the rhythm were coming together. And then the last time I had a chance to see him was we had gone up to Chennai for the South Zone Cultural Center. South Zone Cultural Center is a Government of India organization for development of culture. So in the South Zone, which is all Tamil Nadu, Kerala and all, so I was on the governing council of that. So the meeting was with the governor of Tamil Nadu. And so we had gone up to Chennai for that meeting. And after the meeting, coming back, Devasena and I, we went and visited Sir. And by that time, he was not in good health. Very thin, very fragile. And at that time, he said, Ananda, sing. And that is when I sang the composition I had composed, which is my dedication to him, which is the song on the Adi Adi Nere Kalaiteho. Because, someone who had that dynamism, somebody who had made everybody dance. When Lakshman Sir would do Natvangam, he will start, even a stone will dance. That was the dynamism. And to see him in that fragile state, I think that song was a very apt song for him, and again got his blessings. And a few months later, I got the news that he had passed away. So immediately I went to Chennai. Luckily, I could be there before his body, the final rites were done, and pay my respects to him. I think it is a great blessing. Anybody who has been fortunate enough to be a Natya Shishya of Adyar K. Lakshman, they are fortunate in this lifetime because amazing Guru. No, he would never speak a bad word. He would always appreciate and bring out the best in each student.
So we had, wow, such a, lot of insights and how now we can all see why you are so great.
I am compared to my gurus, I'm nothing. I always say that in front of people like Swamiji, Ammaji, Lakshman Sir, Ranganathan Sir, Krishnamurti Sir, in front of all of them, I'm a small ant. They are the giant. And been very fortunate, a very real human being. Nowadays, you have a lot of false people. I call them plastic people. The world has a lot of plastic people today. Dance has become plastic, yoga has become plastic, music has become plastic. It looks attractive, but it has no essence. And he was a human being who was a true person who had amazing, the essence of Natyam came alive through him. And that is why I cannot watch too much dance these days because I just see so plasticized. The spirit, the Atma of the Natya was there every time Lakshman Sir was teaching and conducting the performance.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. You have a specific and special quality. You compose, choreograph, and set to tune your composition into splendid dances. Haven't you wanted to experience it by performing them yourself?
No. I say no because I've always been a reluctant dancer. For me, Ammaji had to force me onto stage, and I think the one of the only reasons I used to dance was because your Tata Swamiji loved it so much. And he was such a Rasika. Swamiji was a pure Rasika, would sit in the audience, and every time Ammaji or I would dance, so he would just enjoy it so much, and you could see that you were giving him such a joy that you felt like dancing for him. Which is why when Swamiji passed away in 1993, both Ammaji and I stopped dancing because the only person we were really dancing for was Swamiji. And he would sit in the audience and Shiva, 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 which means very good. For him, Shiva was good and very good, and Shiva, Shiva was very, very good. So, that was there. But I have been fortunate because of growing up with the music, the dance, the yoga, the Tamil, which has been my great love. Thanks to Pattabhiraman sir, who has really nurtured that Tamil, that devotion, I will say, bhakti for Tamil. தமிழ் மேல இருக்கக்கூடிய அந்த அளவற்ற பக்தியை எனக்கு ஊட்டியவர் புலவர் பட்டாபிராமணர் அவர்கள், தமிழ் மாமணி, முத்தமிழ் மாமணி, தேசிய நல்லாசிரியர். He has really, our Yoganjali, Natyalayam, we say Yognath's Tamil Tata. And he has really given me that. So for me, it has been natural. And that is why I feel when I have to take somebody else's song, somebody else's composition and do it, it seems like you're eating somebody else's food, not your own food. So here you get that satisfaction of your own food. And then when I see the students dance it, that gives me great pleasure. So I don't really have to dance it. When I see all of you dance it, I get that same I get that same amazing feeling of santosha. So no, I have not felt like dancing it because I have all of you to dance it. All I have to do is prepare it and then feed it to you, and you all eat. And seeing how well you are all eating it, well, I feel happy.
Okay, so moving on to our final question. Our institute, Yoganjali Natyalayam, is, I would say, the only institute, I guess, for a longer time that offers yoga, dance, and music. How was this possible? And in addition to all your dances, you add a jadi or swara to it for sure, compulsory. How is that?
Well, I think one of the foundations of Yoganjali Natyalayam in 1993 was that many of the young people who had come out of the Kamble Swami Fine Arts program, Swamiji and Ammaji wanted to create a place where they could now become teachers because the madam had been taken over by government. And ICYR was too far out for most people. We said we need a city center where the young people can start teaching. So the idea was that these young people who were students now became teachers for a new generation of students. And what we found is that the yoga is the foundation. That is why Yoga Anjali. So it is an Anjali. It is our offering to yoga. It is our salutation to yoga. Natya Alayam. Alayam is a temple or a sacred place. So a temple of dance that is offered with reverence and gratitude to yoga. So yoga has always been the foundation. And what we found is that the yoga gives the person the sense of wholesomeness, that the body, the mind, the emotions, the breath, they all come together in yoga so that when the person dances, it is a holistic human being who's dancing. It is not just my hands are moving or my eyes are moving, but I am moving as a whole. So what we found is the dance gives that sense, the yoga gives the dance a sense of wholesomeness. And the yoga also gives the discipline, the yoga gives the health, it gives the endurance, the stamina. And the spirituality of dance, the Natyam, can be maintained when it is with yoga. I think one issue that happened is as the Natyam became a performing art, it lost the spiritual aspects. Whereas at Yoganjali, we have always tried to maintain the spiritual connection with the dance. It's not just for the sake of dancing on stage or to look good, or to dress up and look so nice and have a nice portfolio. It is not about that. It is about elevating the individual spirit into the universal. It has been the spiritual transformation, which is why, unlike the other institutes who are always looking at arangetrams and performances, we have not looked at that because we are more interested that their children become the best version of themselves they can be through the yoga, the dance, the music, and the whole experience. It is a wholesome experience. It is not like having just rasam or sambar. You have everything up to starting with your sweet and ending with your payasam, and with the buttermilk and rasam in between. You have everything. That is what the Yoganjali experience is about. Which is why our own compositions became so important. And Ammaji, over the last 26 years at Yoganjali, more than 50 dance dramas were done. Why were these dance dramas done? People said, oh, you did it once and you left it. We were doing it for the sake of doing it. We were doing for the spirituality of the art, to help the young people have the experience and to pay our respect to Swamiji. We were not doing it as a commercial entity. In fact, if you ask me, Yoganjali is the best example of how not to have a commercial entity or have a, people talk about a non-profit. I say this is a loss-making unit in that way. So financially it may be loss-making, but qualitatively it is a high-profit institution because all the young people who have come out with these beautiful qualities. I think this is what we have got, because you see Swamiji and Ammaji giving us the yoga tradition. Through Ammaji and Lakshman sir, the Natya tradition. Ranganathan sir giving us the musical tradition. Through Krishnamurti sir, the rhythmic tradition. The Kamli Swami Madam giving us that spiritual South Indian tradition. The Bengali Tantric tradition coming together. All of this coming together in one place, it creates a wholesome experience where everything that is cultural comes together, and the young people can then grow into the best form of themselves. I think this is very important because I often say I have been fortunate that Lakshman sir was my only Natya Guru. Ammaji, of course, as a mother and Guru, and that I didn't go to somebody else. In fact, once Ammaji wanted me to go to somebody else, and that person said, I don't teach boys. And at that time, I felt bad about it, but now I feel happy that I have only been influenced by one stream of Natya, and that is Lakshman sir, because the beauty of the Natya that he has given us, the beauty of the Sangeeta that Ranganathan sir has given, Krishnamurti sir in the rhythmic pattern, Swamiji and Ammaji in yoga, is that these are living traditions that are kept alive. And then we see this being taken forward. We see the young people taking it forward. I think this is so beautiful to see the way it is taken forward. And over the years, so many of the wonderful students who have come out. I'm focusing on the Natyam this time. So I would definitely say, people like Lakshmi, Padma, Niremadi, Ramya and Divya, they were sort of the pioneers of Yoganjali Natyalayam's dance team, and going different places and performing, and both Niremadi and Ramya getting the National Best Child Award, Lakshmi being the recipient of the Best Youth Award. Similarly, Padma, I think Padma's Arangetram was a very special occasion because we went to Chennai. Lakshman sir was the chief guest for it. So to have Padma's Arangetram in Chennai and have that, and then of course, because your own cousin sister Renuka, she was part of this team, and so the whole team grew up, and I think it was very, very beautiful, because when you think about that whole team which was there in those days, they were the pioneers. Okay, so we have great fond memories of, be it Lakshmi, Padma, Renuka, Ramya, Divya, Niremadi, all of them. There's a very special one. Then the next set of people like Manju Bhashini, who played an amazing role of Shani Bhagavan in Nala Damayanti. I think, some of these iconic roles. Then the next generation, which was Kanimuri, Kokila, then Bijal and others coming in, that became the next one. And luckily, a few of them, like Kanimuri, still continuing with us, continuing to give back to the parampara. I think one of the most important aspects of the Indian cultural arts is to give back to the tradition. And definitely Kanimuri has picked up a lot of those essence of what this tradition is about in her compositions, and they're always very attractive compositions. And then this came forward. And so then you had, Shreya Agarwal, who was our youngest Arangetram performer, an amazing dancer. Her parents were doctors in Jipma, and now she's in Delhi along with her parents. Amazing performer that she was. And then, of course, the next generation, which became Krishnaveni and Samiksha and others. And then Krishnaveni sort of has become the core of that whole connection of the tradition. In fact, I think my first composition where I worked with the dance was Parvati Nayagini, and then we worked on the Pancharatnam Jagata. Jagata Karaka. One of the first times a Pancharatnam was performed in dance. And then slowly what happened? The Gajavadana, that was another one. Gajavadana, Parvati Nayagini, Jagatananda was sort of the first of my dance choreography. Then the Gananatha Kautam was actually the first composition that I had written the lyrics, the music, and it came. And that is where I think your mother's role has been very important, because though I've been trained in dance, she had the technical knowledge. So then the technical knowledge could be brought in so that each of the choreography would have an amazing ability of showcasing the best. I think that is the most important aspect that happened. And many of these compositions actually were while we were touring. So I remember we would go to Italy, to Germany, Switzerland, and these compositions would happen. And she's also motivated me to write down most of my compositions, otherwise they will not be there. And what happened was when I started that, Krishnaveni especially, she got that deep love for my compositions to such a level that she has fought with me on many occasions. I call her One Thunder because of that. And because she has fought with me that I want to do that composition. We want to do 12 compositions, 15 compositions, 20 compositions. We want to do all your compositions. And once when she was doing her engineering, she was to dance in some annual day of the college. And she wanted to do Gananatha Kautam. And when she showed it to them, they said, no, 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 you should do some other item. She said, I will only do Dr. Sir item, otherwise I will not dance. So that is the type of commitment which she has given. And then keeping track of all the compositions. I have forgotten what I have composed. She keeps track, and during the lockdown, now they have been recording all of them. So we have a beautiful database. So I think definitely I owe Krishnaveni a lot for having kept the spirit of compositions and choreography in me alive. And once she wrote an article about me, which was there. And that article really, I think, meant a lot to me, because it reminded me that even when I think I may not be doing much, I may be helping others. And that I should do it for the sake of something bigger, not just me. And then after that, she has been able to influence the rest, right up to your generation. And in between Bala Sundari and Vidya Shankari coming in, of course, I cannot forget Soumya, because Soumya and Vidya, having been born into Yoganjali, when we did the Ramavatara dance drama, Soumya was the baby. When we did Andal, we had Vidya Shankari. Another time we did Ramavatara, you were there. When we did Poompavi, Anand Raj was there. It is like we always had a baby ready for the dance dramas.
And then for we had Deganand.
Yes.
We have had Hasini for our Dasavataram play.
It is interesting how whenever we needed a baby, we sort of had a baby in the Yogacharya family. And Soumya and Vidya have again kept that tradition alive, because the amount of work that, say, Shanmugam sir and Lalita Miss have done, and because of them being part of the family, Soumya and Vidya, right from the baby, like you and Anand Raj have also had that, right from basically you were born into it. And Soumya's got busy with her work and all, but Bala Sundari and Vidya, when Krishnaveni had to relocate to Bangalore, took it up and have kept it going. And for me, this is the sign of good things where each generation continues. And now you are at a point where you can take it up, which is why last year that decision to make you deputy director of Yoganjali happened. Because when I was 15, I was appointed the life chairman of ICYR by Swamiji. So for me, when you were 15, I felt that was a time that we had to make it clear that yes, someone is there to take it forward. And over the COVID time, I think people are really seeing that you are capable and all. So that's nice. Of course, we are all a work in progress. None of us are perfect. We are all a work in progress. But coming back to the focus on the dance, I think the most important thing I learned from Lakshman sir was you have to become dance. You have to become the Natya. From Swamiji, I learned you have to become the yoga. You have to become it. Ranganathan sir, Krishnamurti sir, with all my gurus, in all the fields, it has been you have to become the art. You are not doing the art, but you have become it. And I think this is a message that I try to take to people through my own life. That you have to become it. It is not you singing. You become the song. And that is why, whenever I hear you singing, for me it is so important because you become that song. When I see people dancing, I cannot conclude this without talking about our Yoganjali Natyalayam Aragi, because Sangavi has been such a phenomenal dancer. I tell you, singing for Sangavi's Arangetram, I think it was the first Arangetram for which I sang the whole Arangetram. Because initially I used to do the Mridangam and I sang for Arangetram. I think for me, one of the most fulfilling experiences is when I sing and Sangavi is dancing. Very fulfilling because she becomes dance on stage. There's no Sangavi, the dancer. It is just the Natyam comes alive when she's on stage, which is why I tease her that on stage you are Sangavi. You come off, you become Sangavi because that energy is not there. And it's astonishing. It is something very special, and I think this is one of the most key aspects that Yoganjali Natyalayam has tried to give the young people. Is these fine arts are not for your ego boosting. The fine arts are not for you to get up on stage and say, "Oh, the world see me and look at me," but they are for you to experience what the fine arts and yoga are all about. You experience it by becoming it. And that is where you become Natya, you become yoga, you become Sangeeta. And at that point, you actually have a very close experience to what could be a type of samadhi actually. It is a samadhi-like trance experience. And I've seen that. I have seen with so many of the young people dancing. When Saraswati used to dance, I used to see that happen. I've seen it when your mother's dancing, when Ammaji was dancing, the pure dance would come alive. I've seen it even a lot of times with Krishna Veni, because she loves dance more than anything. And that is why she could fight with me. I remember that day, she said, "We want to do that padam." I said, "There's no time in the annual day." Ponga sir, na panla soltu, she walked away. I will never forget that because that means a lot to me that more than loving me, she loves my choreography. She loves the dance. That is what you want. You don't want people to just, it's not about the teacher. It is about the teaching. It is not about the performer. It is about the performance. It is about the art. And I think that is the most important thing that I have learned in my life of dance, in my life of Natya, is that you have to become the art. And we are fortunate to be given that opportunity in this lifetime to have that experience. Many people don't. So we need to share because sharing is caring.
Okay, so that was quite an outline, and you all came to know about Yognat, about our Yognat family, and because that's quite an important role because that's where you started, and so thanking Yogacharya Devasena Bhavanani and Yogachamal Kanimori for their lovely questions and enabling this episode to become, you know, really good. And just to inform you beforehand that next week we will have an insight of Dr. Sir's music journey, because I think this is very important to understand, because now we have saw the dance, but next week we'll go through the music and we will have another one with the rhythm, that's the mridangam. So that we know how it came into his life, and maybe we could role model ourselves on it. And thanking you all for watching this, and keep, you all are, I see a lot of you, you're always supporting and you're always there, and really appreciate that a lot. And just to remind before we conclude that the next course is the mantra yoga sadhana, and that's something that I have been dreaming for. And my singing partner Tejasvi, we were extremely happy when Dr. Sir announced it, and I'm sure that it will be such a success, and we should be honored to, and we should have the privilege, and should just be there. Don't miss it. And so the registrations, I think, are closing by day after tomorrow, Tuesday. So better get in before that.
I don't know whether you are honored, but I am honored to have all of you with me. So I always say that if the students are not there, then who do you teach to? So, when students register and they are there in the class, and I have some loving souls from around the world, so it means a lot to have all of you in my life.
And also to say that we are moving on our singing series, that's with my singing partner Tejasvi, and we have Shirley and Anandraj supporting us in some of our songs. So we have few songs coming up, and we have just thought that instead of singing only the English songs, to have some more of the Hindi spiritual songs, and they'll be coming up, and hope you all are waiting, and we are there and working on it. And see you soon next week, and same time and same place. Thank you.
Namaste.